Hi everyone, welcome back to Learn with Me. I'm Deborah Hanson, and today we're going to be looking at AP Human Geography 1.6 Scales of Analysis, but just the key terms. So, as I always say, the key to the five is knowing your key terms. So, on this slide, you're going to see all the key terms that are important for 1.6. I'm going to go through each one, definition, an example, and an exam tip to help you be successful on the exam or your unit test. Before we get started, thanks to everybody who is subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm going to keep going with all the units for AP Human Geography and add AP World as well. We've already got AP Psychology on the channel and keep adding some more as we go along. Okay, so we're going to look at the definition example for each of the key terms that you need to know for the exam. So it's really important to write these down somewhere, whether you're making flashcards or you're putting them in your notebook. Whatever you decide to do, it's really important to know not only the definition, but how to apply them. So when you see an MCQ or an FRQ, you can actually give some examples to go with these definitions that you know. So super important. Let's start with map scales. The definition shows the relationships between distance on a map and actual distance on Earth. So for example, a scale of 1 to 100,000 means that 1 unit on the map is equal to 100,000 units in real life. So if the unit is in centimeters, then 1 centimeter on the map equals 100,000 centimeters in real life. So 1 centimeter on the map equals 1 kilometer on the ground. Here's your exam tip. Remember, large scale equals more detail, smaller area. Small scale equals less detail, larger area. Global scale. The definition is examines patterns across the entire world. So studying the worldwide impacts, worldwide impacts of climate change. So for example, global equals broad patterns, don't expect local detail. Regional scale. The definition is examines patterns within a specific region of the world. For example, comparing agricultural practices in sub-Saharan Africa. Here's your exam tip. Regions are united by common features, for example, culture, environment, and economy. Local scale. This focuses on small, detailed areas such as cities or neighborhoods. Mapping ethnic neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles would be an example. Here's your exam tip. Local scales reveals details hidden at higher scales. Cartographic scale, the ratio between map distance and Earth distance, and how zoomed in or out a map is. So, for example, a world map versus a city street map. So, don't confuse this with scales of analysis. That's the data level. Cartographic really just means the map itself. And it comes from the word cartography, right, which was making maps. Scale of analysis. The definition is the geographic level a researcher chooses to study a question. So, for example, studying poverty locally in one city versus globally across the countries. Here's an exam tip. Always match the scale of inquiry to the question. Global scales show big patterns, but local scales reveal details. Using the wrong scale can lead to scale mismatch and losing points on the exam. Aggregation. The definition is how data is grouped or summarized, small units versus large units. For example, the US unemployment shown country by country versus by state. The exam tip, more aggregation equals more generalization, less aggregation equals more detail. Scale mismatch. The definition is when the scale of data doesn't match the scale of the issue. So, for example, studying climate change at the city level instead of studying it globally. Always match the scale of analysis to the scale of the problem. Patterns, so processes at different scales. So, yeah, that's right. Scale. Sorry, that's right. Processes at different scales. So the definition is different scales show different spatial patterns and relationships. For example, at a local scale, a city may look segregated. At the national scale, the country may appear diverse. So always ask yourself, how does this pattern look different if I zoom in or if I zoom out? Globalization. The definition is the increasing interconnectedness of people, cultures, and economies around the world. For example, McDonald's restaurants appearing in many countries. Exam tip. Be prepared to explain both cultural convergence, similarities increase, and cultural divergence, differences preserved or strengthened. These are key terms that are going to show up in Unit 3. Okay, so those are the important key terms for 1.6. You now know a definition and you know how to apply it with an example and an exam tip. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button for me. If you have any questions, put them down below. You'll also find below the link to the full slideshow and study notes and workbook for Unit 1. If you want to hear Unit 6 in a lot more detail, where I break down the CED question and I talk about how all of these key terms actually look in this unit, then you'll also find the link for the video below, or you can find it on my channel. So thank you so much for listening. See you next time.